the South Point Park or South Point Pier.
Yeah, so we got a call through dispatch from the park ranger advising that we had multiple people there on the pier with firearms. The park ranger, I guess, approached him. He advised dispatch of what he had, basically saying, I got some guys here with guns. And we decided to respond thinking, what is this? This isn't a normal call we usually get.
So did you actually speak to the park ranger before you got to the park and saw him physically?
So on the BWC, it does show me, it just shows us talking to him. Mm-hmm. It is those 30 seconds prior, so there's no audio. So I can only speculate what he's saying, and basically saying, I got guys here with guns. I told them they had to leave. They wouldn't leave. So we're thinking, okay, why are these guys here? Do we have an active shooter situation here? I don't know what I got. So we have to treat it as a possible threat at the moment.
Madam Court Reporter, can you read back my last question, please?
Sure. Question, did you actually speak to the park ranger before you got to the park and saw him physically?
Yes.
You talked to him by phone?
I believe he was there on scene.
Okay, the question was, did you speak with the park ranger before you arrived at the park and were physically present with him?
No.
Okay. So when he called dispatch notified you, but they didn't patch his phone call through to you or anything like that?
No.
Okay. So when you're driving to the scene and before you actually get there and meet up with the park ranger, you knew what dispatch was telling you the park ranger said, not necessarily what the park ranger actually said, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, once you got to the park, do you know who got to the park ranger first, whether it was you, Rivera, Villamil, or Garcia?
We all together. We were all together, so we got there at the same time.
And y'all had a short conversation with the park ranger?
Correct.
And he told you there were people on the pier with guns, right? Did he tell you anything else other than there are men on the pier and they have guns?
It may have been brought up that these are possible sovereign citizens in that conversation.
All right. Is that something the park ranger said?
I don't remember the exact conversation, but I remember sovereign citizens being mentioned, which is why my alert level went up.
Because sovereign citizens have a higher danger level in terms of officer interaction, right?
Correct.
You've had training on sovereign citizens.
Yes.
And that's your training is, once you're dealing with those people, you got a whole other level of concern that you need to have about your interaction.
Correct.
Okay. But you don't remember whether it was the park ranger or one of your fellow officers that brought up these might be sovereign citizens?
I do not remember.
As you sit here today, do you have any reason to believe that they were sovereign citizens in any way?
Today's date?
Yes, sir.
No.
Okay. Once you concluded your investigation that day, did you have any reason to still believe they were sovereign citizens?
My suspicion was lowered, but I still don't know to this day if they truly are or not. I mean, I don't believe they are. But at that moment, going into the pier, that was my suspicion that these guys were sovereign citizens.
What information did you have before you walked onto that pier? What information did you have that led you to believe they were sovereign citizens?
There was mention that there were possible sovereign citizens, that I had multiple armed men on the pier. And at that point, it's a Sunday morning. I have multiple people on the pier, people on the beach. I have cruise ships going by. I have the Coast Guard, multiple private vessels, jet skis. So at that moment, I'm treating this as a possible threat.
Okay. Does something about having multiple private vessels linked to the idea of sovereign citizens?
Objection to form. Could you read that question back again?
Question, does something about having multiple vessels link to the idea of sovereign citizenship?
I guess no.
Okay. Well, I asked you what information you had that led you to believe they were sovereign citizens. First thing you said is it was mentioned that they might be sovereign citizens.
Yes,
right?
Correct.
But you don't remember who mentioned it.
Correct.
Okay, the next thing you said was there were multiple armed men.
Correct.
Does the fact that there are multiple armed men together, is that an indicator of sovereign citizen behavior to you?
It's possible.
Have you had training that indicates that is a defining or identifying characteristic of sovereign citizens?
My training teaches me that sovereign citizens are usually armed.
Okay. The fact that it's a Sunday morning, does that in some way indicate to you that the people there are sovereign citizens?
The day of the week is irrelevant.
Okay. Well, you listed it. That's why I'm asking.
Correct.
Does the fact that cruise ships are nearby somehow indicate to you that a armed person is probably a sovereign citizen?
No.
Okay. Do you know if there were any cruise ships scheduled to come in or out that day during that time period?
Usually Sundays is the days most of the ships depart. However, since there's so many cruise ships, sometimes it's normal for every day of the week. But Sunday is usually the bulk day.
You believe that Sunday is usually the bulk day that most cruise ships come in or out of Miami Beach?
Usually come out.
Usually come out, okay. And you are stating that as based on what was going on in 2018, in June
Based on my observation of working in the area.
In June of 2018?
Correct.
If I've told you I did a check and that there was not a single cruise scheduled to come in or leave Miami Beach that day, would that make you rethink that testimony?
Objection to form.
You can answer the question.
I can answer it? No, that doesn't change my mind.
Did you actually see any cruise ships physically present at the pier that particular day, in your recollection?
I don't recall.
What time do cruise ships usually leave when they leave?
All throughout the day. I don't have specific times.
When do they usually return, to your knowledge?
Same thing.
All throughout the day?
Yes.
You ever taken a cruise, sir?
Yes, I have.
You remember what time your cruise left?
Multiple cruises, multiple different times.
You're telling me you've been on a cruise that left in the morning?
I don't recall.
Do you recall ever specifically going on a cruise that left the port before noon?
Not to the best of my memory.
Do you ever remember going on a cruise that the ship came back after noon?
Not to the best of my memory.
How many cruises do you think you've been on, officer or sergeant?
6 maybe.
Of those 6 cruises, didn't most of them come in like possibly even before daybreak? When they were returning?
Yeah.
Did I answer?
And didn't most of them depart later in the afternoon?
Yes.
Do you remember any specific cruise that didn't depart in late afternoon or come back in early morning?
Not in my experience.
Okay. So let me ask you again. Other than the things you already listed, is there any other information you had been given, either by dispatch or by the ranger, that led you to believe that these men were possibly sovereign citizens?
No.
Do you remember if you wrote anything in your report at the conclusion that stated you believed they were sovereign citizens?
It was written on the special incident, which when I briefed Lieutenant Garcia, I believe, who wrote it.
A special incident written by Lieutenant Garcia?
Yes.
Okay. Was that document prepared the same day as the incident?
It should have been.
Okay. Did you review any records for today?
I reviewed it yesterday, and I saw it there.
You saw a special incident yesterday?
And when I reviewed the reports, yes, I saw it there, yes.
Okay. Did you review something that looked like this? Case detail report?
Yes.
Case report detail, excuse me.
Yes, I did.
Okay, this was produced in Discovery. It is numbered pages 1 of 72, and there are 72 pages here.
Okay.
Did you review this particular document in terms of pages 1 through 72?
I reviewed the documents, so most likely, yes, related to this incident.
Okay. Do you